Hi, welcome back. Week 5, video 4. Sorry about the last video. My phone ran out of memory, so I had to delete some stuff. So basically, the sales that are happening on these slave ships or in these sale yards are barbaric. Captains will establish a price. Usually there's a price for men, women, and children. Each is distinct. All of the Africans will be herded together. And then the purchasers are essentially given a rope. And that rope is how they wrangle the slaves that they want to buy. So what they will do is they'll walk through the sale yard and tie the rope around each slave that they would like to individually purchase. Once the slaves have been purchased, it is time for seasoning. Following the sale comes the process of seasoning. This is an incredibly brutal process, and essentially will start to distinguish slaves in different categories and a number of other things. So in Barbados, Jamaica, and the Caribbean islands, planters divide the enslaved into 3 categories. The first of these is Creoles. These are mixed race slaves that are Africans. Like, one of the parents was African, but the other one could have been, European. The other one is European. The second are old Africans. The third are new Africans. Now, Creole slaves are usually 3 times the price of what new Africans are, because new Africans are 1, unseasoned, but 2, they also don't, part of that seasoning process is the language, and they don't know the language. Seasoning will make the new Africans basically like the Creoles. It's an incredibly firm disciplinary process, and the main goal is to modify the behavior of the enslaved. They want to make them active laborers and really good laborers. They want to make them good at their jobs. In the West Indies, seasoning will serve 2 purposes. It will begin with the masters giving the slaves new names. They will learn European languages, and the Spanish-speaking peoples will be able to easily identify the Africans who speak Spanish, along with the Creole language. Now, the length of seasoning will vary drastically, depending on a number of things. Essentially, slaves can be divided into plantation work, or can even serve apprenticeships under old Africans. New Africans can be in apprenticeships under old Africans to learn different jobs. And some planners will really prefer younger human cargo because they think that the younger the slave, the easier it is to season them. Now, seasoning, the planters and the masters will rely on the old Africans to teach the new Africans how to become like the Creoles. It's a very similar demographic pattern as to what will emerge in chattel slavery in the plantation systems of the U.S. South. Both of these will divide the enslaved into cooperative labor groups, and they will call these gangs. Now, notice the word gang here, and then think about how we apply the word gang today. It's a pretty racially divisive term from its get-go. So we see drivers. These are the people who direct the work gangs on the plantations. Now, within the seasoning process. These men are almost always black. Overseers can be white, mixed race, or black, and they impose all the discipline. And the recalcitrant new Africans will be assigned, new Africans that are like angry and freaking out and more likely to cause a problem, they're going to be housed with or sent to the strictest overseers and drivers. This is intentional to break their human spirit as well. Now, new Africans will be housed with the old Africans and the Creoles who instruct them. And the enslaved are sometimes allowed to sell surplus root vegetables, peas, and fruit from their gardens. They can do this to save money, with which they can use that money to purchase their own freedom. They can also purchase the freedom of others. This all happens in the West Indies. Now, the new Africans also will have benefits during this process. They'll learn how to build houses in the area that they're going to be living. They'll learn how to cultivate vegetables and how to supplement the food that's provided to them from their owners. And while a lot of them have these skills before they come here, they're really going to have to adapt them to the new environment as well as the new climate. The ground is different, the building materials available are different, and the social organization is nowhere near the same. So to continue on with this, I'll explain what the different jobs or gangs are called. So the Great Gang is made up of all men. This is only the strongest and toughest slaves. And these slaves will be field workers, and they're going to do all the heavy planting and lifting. Now the second gang is usually women and older men, and they do lighter field labor, things like weeding. The third gang will be the children. They work shorter hours. Their tasks are incredibly simple as children. Things like taking food and water to the other field gangs. And then we see a status of domestic servant. What we find through the end of the journey of this is that the goal is for survival of the enslaved. We see the enslaved forced to adapt to new foods and climates, and we see the enslaved start to learn their new languages. Psychologically, we see the enslaved start to accept the fact that they're slaves. They start to accept the fact that they're probably never going to see their homes again. And the planners will want all of these criteria met before you can consider seasoning a success. And this has to happen basically before the planters are going to take them to their plantations. Now keep in mind that new Africans will hold their memories and culture incredibly tight and close to them. And we're gonna see this emerge in a number of different areas. We also see that these new Africans start to create kinship bonds because of the bonds that have been broken. Africans who survived the Atlantic slave trade and slavery in the Americas will be the most resilient. And we'll see seasoning modify the behavior. Now, the cruelties of the slave trade will lead to its eventual abolition in the very early 19th century. In the late 1700s, the English abolitionists, led by people like Thomas Clarkson, William Wilberforce, and Granville Sharp, will begin religiously motivated crusades about morality and against slavery and the enslavement. The English continued to dominate the slave trade until about 1713, and we really don't see them stop for any reason other than their economic goals shift, and they become more interested in manufacturing and manufactured goods, which means they need raw materials more than they need labor. And so the English ruling class slowly becomes aware that if they start investing in industry and manufacturing, that it's way more profitable than slavery ever was. Finally, there starts to be people who start to morally question whether or not slavery was right. So what happens is in 1807,